Good morning, all. Well, what's today's topic? A bit tired, as you can probably tell. Nothing unusual there. Yeah, I'm doing it in reverse, so it's mirrorising, but that mug says I drink coffee and know things. And in the morning, yes, I do drink coffee. And I know things. Not as much as I do when I'm fully awake, but... Interesting subjects that came up yesterday. My obsession with all things military has been noted by a few new friends. Yes, I admit to it. The development and history of warfare across the ages is a subject I feel passionate about. Nice to know that Facebook, basically, they banned a post of mine by the Forgotten Weapons channel. Hello, love you guys. Love you. You're great. Fascinating videos. About a developed handheld Gauss rifle stroke magnetic induction rifle. I asked them to review it and they cleared it, which I thought was a really positive thing for Facebook. Because it's more about the science and technology and where we are now, as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, as I was saying to a couple of people, hi Mike, and I forget your name, darling, with the lovely walking stick, but you as well. Basically, in a way, I mean, my interest in history, military history, is more piqued by eyewitness accounts of experiences men and women, and indeed in some cases, unfortunately, children, have been through in wartime. Some grim, some not so grim. I mean, take many years ago in the Suffolk Records Office, I was given access, because I was at high school at the time and doing a study, so many years ago. It wasn't even online then, you know, it was just records in boxes. Focus. I read the diary of a Suffolk Regiment soldier who was involved in the Gallipoli campaign in World War I, which was a colossal mess. Hello, Churchill, you helped organise that, didn't you? Yeah, I may admire the man to a certain extent, but he definitely had a whole bunch of flaws, didn't he? And there were horrendous descriptions of bodies lying bloated in no man's land and such like. But there were these little incidents he recorded, one of which, at one point they were stationed in trenches that were within throwing distance of the Turkish trenches. And when things were quiet, there'd be some communication in broken English, because none of the Suffolk Regiment soldiers could speak a word of Turkish, of course. We're British. We just shout loudly at people in foreign countries. As Eddie Izzard said, egg and chips, please. What? Egg, sausage and chips. In Afghanistan or something, you know. And basically, they started, you know, how are the rations on your side? Well, we're a bit short on this. You know, that kind of thing. The Turks would chuck over things like dates and olive oil. British would chuck over, you know, bully beef and biscuits. And beef was acceptable to the Islamic Turks, so that's fine. Cigarettes, of course. No soldier in the trenches ever had enough cigarettes. You know. And this kept on going when the sector was quiet until one point when one of the lads apparently got sent a Christmas ham. most of you, have some knowledge of things like this. Will see where this is going, but basically they huzzed that over after they'd had their share. It was met by a fusillade of shots because obviously the Turks are Muslim, and they took it as an insult because it was pork. And then there was the toilet incident, because basically they would dig, behind the lines, they would dig trenches as latrines, and there'd be a wooden pole for everyone to sit on. And one particular time, dysentery, obviously at Gallipoli, was rife among the ranks because water was poorly sanitised. And a particularly crowded day, there were so many men sitting on one of the wooden poles above the latrine trench that the pole broke and sent about a dozen men flying backwards into this morass of piss and shit. And they laughed about it, because what else could they do? They were in this horrific situation. And this is the point I want to make about dark humour. When people's humour is very, very dark, some people get offended. But you don't know the situation that person is in. You don't know their view of the world, what they've been through. For some people, dark humour is the only way they can cope. Well, that's just my philosophy. But anyways, my fascination with the history of warfare. It's the individuals involved. I mean, I have a... Hang about. I will see if I can find it. Washing machine on. I'm trying to be a bit domestic. Where are we? I rearranged my bookshelf recently, so I have no idea where anything is. Forgotten Voices of World War II. Oh, I'm so disorganised. I really am rather disorganised. Managed to remember to lift the camera up. Ah, there it is. It's mirror writing, I know, sorry. But it's called Symbol of Courage, The Men Behind the Medal, A History of the Victoria Cross. And, yes, I am aware that the author, Max Arthur, is a little bit infamous for being rather right-wing. But when he's not being political, he does write rather good history, I have to say. Because he has privileged access to war records because of his status. And I remember there was one Lancaster crewman in World War II. During an air raid, one of the engines caught fire on the plane. I'm not going to bother trying to find it in the book. I'll just summarise from my memory. And his friends basically roped him, and he crawled out on the wing in mid-flight to try and put the fire out, but to no avail. He suffered severe burns to his hands, arms and face, was taken prisoner by the Germans, and when he eventually got back to England, he was awarded the Victoria Cross for a conspicuous act of gallantry under fire. You wonder what went through his head. Well, most of them say nothing was going through their head. They just did what they needed to do. And apparently after World War II, because he survived the war, luckily for him, he got married. And his wife didn't find out till, I think, a decade later that he'd won the Victoria Cross. He kept this a secret. The most prestigious award for conspicuous gallantry in the British Army, or any British service, you know. And he never told her. And that fascinated me, the psychology. And we have a Victoria Cross winner buried in the old cemetery in Ipswich Name escapes me, but he was a private soldier at the age of about 30 in World War One. So this guy didn't play by the rules, was probably a bit rebellious. But I think it's people like that that either die quickly or get noticed in wartime. They're not good peacetime soldiers. You know, they constantly chafe against the rules and the bureaucracy. If they've got an officer that they don't think is worthy of command, they can't but help show it. And most of them seem to come from very screwed up family situations. You know, and one, I think Lindy Page, the YouTuber, did a psychology YouTube. I'm subscribed to his channel. He can be very, very good. Indeed, very good. I recommend him for anybody who has a massive interest in history, especially military history. And, well, part of the psychology appears to be for Victoria Cross winners and men who commit conspicuous acts of gallantry is they never had much of a family growing up, no real connections with their family. Many of them indeed ended up looking after their younger brothers and sisters while they were still children. And this led to them almost seeing the men either under their command or around them as their own special little family, and they wanted to protect them in combat. I mean, there was a Dr. Noel Shavas, one of only, I think, 2 people who was ever awarded the Victoria Cross twice. Yeah. Both times it was rescuing wounded men in no man's land in World War One. Both times he was wounded. The second time he was wounded fatally, unfortunately. I think he's buried in France. On the opposite end of the scale, there was this New Zealand soldier in World War II. I forget name. Name is not important. He was basically like a real life Sergeant Slaughter or Andy Murphy. He first occasion he won the Victoria Cross, he was found basically badly wounded, surrounded by 20 or 30 Germans that he'd single-handedly taken out with the first guns, grenades, and then bayonet. He survived this and then went on to do it again. And basically after the war, he went back to New Zealand. And it was documented that if anybody dared to drive a German vehicle onto his land, he'd shoot at it. Nutter. But yet, he won this award for the highest award for conspicuous gallantry. But, you know, the regiment that has been awarded the most, I think this is still the case. Someone correct me in the comments. I'm doing this on the fly. The regiment that has won the most Victoria Crosses in the history of the award, the Gurkhas. Technically mercenaries who fight, you know, for the British Army. Their warrior spirit, their rugged self-reliance, their sheer bravado and sense of duty is amazing. I've met a couple of them. I was lucky enough to meet a couple while I lived in Colchester. 2 of them for a while were basically our unofficial bouncers. Golf night we used to run, one of the pubs in town. And one time, they were in there. No, they weren't in there yet. Organised my brain. Well, washing machine's finished, so I should wrap this up in a little while. Basically, a bunch of half a dozen soldiers from a Scottish regiment, Blackwash, came in, and lots of goth girls, and they were getting all touchy-feely with the goth girls and getting leery and lechy and bolshy, and we were like, oh no. are we going to have to do something? Because this was at a time when it still wasn't really official policy to have official bouncers on pub doors. So it was just, up to the bar staff and us to sort out any trouble. Oh, shite. Then these two Gurkhas walked in. Blackwatch noticed them, these hardcore Scottish boys, and they went very quiet. We let the Gurkhas get room at the bar. We nodded and exchanged pleasantries. Their English was basically non-existent. But, they understood us well enough, and they liked being there. They liked all the different people, and, they always behaved themselves. And Blackwatch boys, they just went all quiet, and they sat themselves down on a table, and they finished their drinks, and they left. The sheer admiration the Gurkhas get from myself and fellow regiments. The fact that they're treated even more abominably by the British government, successive British governments, no matter what political creed, is just a travesty to me. So I much admire Joanna Lumley for the campaigning she's done. I may not agree with everything she says, but, yeah. And I also think about the scientific developments that have happened because of warfare. World War I, men coming home maimed and disfigured horribly, plastic surgery, which was advanced more in World War II when it came to treating pilots who were badly burned. Go back even further, the Crimean War, the American Civil War, the development of nursing as a career for women. Obviously Florence Nightingale, but in the American Civil War, you've got Mother Bickerdike, very bossy old lady who moved around army camps like a galleon, and even generals were afraid of her. And Clara Barton, an African-American lady who became famous as a nurse. So she had the world doubly against her, really. Amazing. Look her up. I think my partner, because she's a fully qualified psychiatric nurse, actually studied something about her as part of her degree course, because she was revolutionary in the field of nursing. Let's go right forward. GPS. When you wander around and use Google Maps, and sometimes it's a bit shit, but the technology's never going to be perfect, is it? But that was developed by the military. Super glue, Vietnam, for sealing up terrible wounds and keeping soldiers alive. This is my point. To some people, my obsession with military history may seem a little unhealthy, but the gains, the slowly and hesitant start of African American civil rights, it's not there yet, is it? That the American Civil War started. The freeing of Europe in World War II. Although, there have been far-reaching consequences to that, I do understand. But never mistake Jewish people for the Israeli state. There is a fundamental difference. Right, I'm nearly 20 minutes now, and I've got some things to do this morning. So, but I will continue this train of thought maybe on my next video. I have a lot more to talk about on this subject. So, well, I'm sure we'll speak again soon. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear and see, do feel free to like and subscribe. And yeah, it's roughly 7:30 in the morning now, so time to get shit done because the daylight's out there, and I'm going to have to go have a rummage around in the garage Anyway, take care.